Hey, this is Tim from To Hell with the Podcast, and you are listening to Rock and Metal Faith.
Hey, this is Daryl from To Hell with the Podcast, and you are listening to Rock and Metal Faith. Check it out.
This week on the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast, we're going to talk once again about our favorite band, Stryper. We'll see where the conversation goes. We're going to just call this For the Love of Stryper, why we love the band so much, and maybe get into some of our favorite records and songs from the band. And we've also got a few guests to join us, so stick around.
With electric guitars, the heavens shake through every riff, our souls awake. This is rock and metal faith. Thunder roars, his name is praised. Through light and dark, his love will fade. Forever loud, rock and metal faith.
All right, welcome back to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. As I said in the beginning, this week we're all about Stryper. This is the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. It's all about the classics and the newcomers. Today we're focusing on Stryper. So come and join us as we rock for the king, because this is the rock that makes me roll. I'm your host, Aaron Hancock, joined with Chris Permond and my co-host, and joined with a couple other fellows this week from To Hell with the Podcast. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Chris, thanks so much for having us on today. We are excited, as we were talking about before the show. And my name is Tim, and I'm with Daryl. And Daryl and I, we co-host To Hell with the Podcast, which is a podcast strictly, mostly, all the time. We talk about Stryper albums. We dive into their solo stuff. I mean, Michael Sweet's solo stuff or side projects, but that's what we do. It's To Hell with the Podcast, and we're excited to be here.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun one. Yeah, thanks for having us. Tim said most of the things, and yeah, To Hell with the Podcast is what we do. So we're glad to be hanging out with you guys tonight.
So just to start off, guys, what prompted you to do a podcast?
Can I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead, Daryl.
This is going to sound really bougie. Tim and I were at the Masters golf tournament, and we were just talking ish, and we were like, well, what if we did a Stryper podcast? And we kind of just both looked at each other and was like, you know what? You and I could do a Stryper podcast, because I mean, this is the band that good grief, since we were in our early teens. And I was like, we have enough knowledge, and you know, we can do the research, or we could commit to it. And so we were just like, yeah, let's go. And we're on episode 27?
Yeah, actually we did 28. So the next one we would do will be 29. So
Wow,
Yeah,
congratulations.
it was just something that we thought would be fun, and it's really
which it
fun.
has been. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I was like, kind of my attitude is like, I don't care if anybody's listening to it, but it's really fun to do, because I pop out of bed at 7:00 and on Saturday morning, it's like, all right, cool, we're doing the podcast at 10, and and I get to hang out with my boy. So it's just one of those, I guess it sounds stupid, but kind of a passion project.
And I guess you could say, from my perspective, Chris, I always tend to run into a lot of people. And as Daryl and I committed to saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then we started talking about to people, hey, we're going to do a podcast. It's going to be based upon the band Stryper. It wasn't that I found people asking me who Stryper was. It was, "Oh, I remember them from the '80s." Well, and that's the only knowledge they have of this band is those 5 albums with the greatest hits that came out in '91. That's all they know about this band, and it's like they don't know anything from Reborn and on, and it's like they have this whole other era of the band that they're unfamiliar with, and it's just like, "Do you have enough material?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they've basically been putting out an album every other year since 2005 for the most part." And I'm like, "Here, listen to this song." And they're like, "Oh, I got to go check this stuff out." And so part of it was, I if we have 20 people listening, if we have 50 people, just want to just show, you know, tribute and honor to a band that has made such an impact in our life, just with them musically, where they stand for, lyrically, everything, and just how, in my opinion, underrated the talent of these guys have been since the beginning. But really, it's this back half of their catalog that I really love. And that was the other reason I really wanted to get into it, was because I think some of my opinion, some people might disagree, but I think the back half of their catalog, if I'm going to pick up a Stryper album today, I'm picking up 4 times out of 5, I'm picking up something from 2005 on versus the older stuff. And it's just, I just love the newer material that they've put out. So that was part of the other reason.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, especially this, when I started looking at my favorite albums from Stryper, I'm going, you know what? I'm tend to go more to the newer ones, especially the last 4 or 5 ones have come out over
Mhm.
the classics. Now, I still love the classics. Nothing wrong with
Yep.
that. And that might be something about the strength of this band is there isn't really a bad album. And even as Chris and I have gone through the albums systematically, when you say this album is at the bottom of the list, that's just because all the other ones are that much better. But that doesn't mean what's at the bottom of your list is a bad record, And
I mean,
Tim's thinking
that's
the
what we
same
run
thing I'm
into all the
thinking.
time. Yeah.
They gotta go somewhere.
yeah,
Because I mean, when we're ranking, because what we do is we've been through all the albums now, and we rank our favorites from bottom to top. And there are days I get on there and I'm like, why did I put this song at number 10? This is such a good, but then it's like I have
Yeah.
others that maybe just made a little bit more of an impact, or they spoke to me at that certain point in time when it came out and stuff like that. But there's probably only one album where I say, yeah, there's probably a couple of skippers on this one that I probably don't listen to. But for the most part, like you said, I mean, from top to bottom, not just the albums, but from top to bottom, opening track to ending track, they usually are incredible albums.
Did you guys see them in concert at all?
Oh, oh my word. That was my 3rd ever concert, and Tim and I have been to see them before as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we went and saw them on the Murder by Pride tour back in '09. We saw them on the Goddamn Evil tour.
okay, that'd be a good one.
And then we saw them again most recently with When We Were Kings. And
Okay.
then I saw them twice before in the early days on the To Hell with the Devil and the In God We Trust tour back in the day.
And we saw the Michael Sweet acoustic
Yep.
thing not too long ago as well. So
That was a crazy story because I live in rural Georgia, and where we saw them is about 30 minutes from where we live. It's another rural county. I mean, a rural city in South Carolina. And when I saw the concert list, I was like, Michael Sweet is going there? That just seemed really out of place because it's in the middle of nowhere. But what was cool about that was that night when he was there, because it was in South Carolina, Perry lives, I think, in Myrtle Beach. So he drove over. So not only did we get the chance to meet Michael Sweet, but we had the opportunity to meet Perry Richardson as well.
yeah, and it was at an old school like opera house kind of
Yeah.
environment. It was really cool. But yeah, I mean, he was still doing it. But yeah, it's all
Is that the concert they taped? And note that
Um,
because saw one on YouTube, and
I'm
they
No,
not
were
this
sure.
one
in.
wasn't. Yeah, this
Okay,
one wasn't. The one Daryl and I went to wasn't one that they taped. This was just the one we went to was just a Michael Sweet. It was just him with the guitar the entire time. So it was kind of cool because he did some Stryper stuff, he did some cover stuff, he did some of his solo stuff. So it was a pretty cool overall experience to be able to go and see him acoustically. And it was something that my wife was like, "Yeah, I'll go to an acoustic set with you on Michael Sweet," because she's not going to the full tapped out band kind of stuff. And we brought my youngest son, so we had a good night that night.
Yeah, that was a good
That's
that's
night.
good.
awesome.
I'll drag my wife to a few of the heavier metal concerts that she's kind of into because I play them around her. But if it was just her going, she probably wouldn't go type of thing. And then there's a few like that coming up that we're gonna go to. But actually,
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to bring up there, when I discovered you guys were doing this, I was all excited and like, oh, great, another podcast. I got a big list of podcasts. I don't even get them all, but I do have checked out yours. It's been pretty good, and definitely could be one I'll have to keep going. I kind of went back to the beginning. I rarely go to the beginning of a podcast that's been around a while, but I'm like, I got to hear what these guys have been doing. But here's the story too: is when we started ours, we almost started ours on a Stryper exclusive as well. I'm like coming up with ideas for podcasts, and I'm thinking, well, we should talk about the '80s music that we grew up loving. I could talk forever about that, and then I'm like, but there's tons of band or podcasts out there just talking about rock and metal in general. So let's niche it down to the Christian rock and metal, which we did. But I'm like, or should we just narrow it down to Stripe? Let's just open it up to anything that's Christian rock and metal.
Well, Aaron, I hear you on that because we've got, like I said, we've gone through all the albums. What we do is we do 4 episodes of Stryper, and then our 5th episode is going to be a solo or a side project that one of the members does. So we just wrapped up 15, 20, and 25. We did the Sweet and Lynch albums. We talked about those, but that's been the topic that Daryl and I have had now since we've gone through all the albums. We're like, okay, where
Now
do we
what?
go from here? What do we talk about next? Because this is a lot that we probably could talk about, but
Well, we did our first controversy episode
Yeah.
last week, so that was kind of
Yeah.
fun.
All right, yeah, we did one too. We started a series about the '80s bands continuing on in the '90s, and and some of those '80s bands had to go grunge and alternative, and we're like, oh, let's cover some of that material, which is not our favorite material to cover.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever talk about why Walmart did not decide to distribute to hell with not
So-
to hell with the devil?
Goddamn evil.
Goddamn evil. Thank you. Yeah. Did you guys ever talk about?
We did talk about that a little bit when we talked about the Goddamn Evil album. But what we kind of did this last time when we got into the controversy podcast was like, why is there controversy all just seems to be surrounding this band? Not just from the secular, non-church world, because I can get it because they may not like the lyrics, they may feel like that, but the controversy from inside the church as well. So we talked a little bit about that and some trouble Daryl and I ran into in our high schools when we wore the "To Hell with the Devil" shirts. But in the controversy itself, episode, we're going to do a part 2 of that. So we're going to get a little bit more into the Goddamn Evil and the controversy surrounding, hey, it was 35 years, almost 40 years later, and they're still having problems with getting
Yeah.
the material out into the mainstream because of
Who knows?
but we can put other trash out. I mean, not don't say I'm saying that Stryper stuff is trash, but we can put trash out there and
Yeah.
let little kids see it as they walk by all day long. But if it's Christian, no, that's that we got to look out for that.
Right.
Tim and I can't shut up, so we haven't had a podcast under an hour and a half, I don't think. So we'll definitely dig into that on our next episode because we'd like to talk.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because our goal was when we first started, like, we'll probably keep this to an hour. And the more we started talking, because we just start talking. and it's just we keep going,
don't-
and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's an hour and 45 minutes later, and I got my 7-year-old banging at the door saying, "Hey, come on out. You ready to play?" No, I'm still going. I mean,
You know, Tim, if that happens, we are a friendly family podcast. He more than happy to come in and join us.
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, let's start with how we all got introduced to Stryper, or what all drew us, or how we all first heard of Stryper. Put it that way.
Hit it, Tim.
Yeah, so the first time I heard of Stryper, I remember, and it was the Soldiers Under Command album. And I'm going to tell on myself a little bit here. During that time period, that was 84, that was 85, and I was 11 or 12 years old. I was a young kid, and Daryl knows this. I was more into the pop scene at that time. It was Chicago, it was Journey, it was, those types of albums. So my brother brought home Soldiers Under Command and played me like the first riff off of Soldiers Under Command. And I went, yeah, that's a little too hard for me. so, so I didn't really get into them. And then it was when the To Hell with the Devil album came out. And I remember picking that up, and I don't know why I bought it. I bought it, and I took it home, and me and a friend of mine were listening to it, and we heard The Abyss, and he was like, he hit it right on the nail. He was like, oh man, that sounds like The Gates of Hell or something crazy like that. And then it went into Hell with the Devil Calling on You. And I kind of put it aside. And so I listened to it. That was probably around Thanksgiving when I bought that album. And then it was later on that year. And I had a bad habit back in, if I knew YouTube was going to be in existence and I could watch any music video at any time from the 80s on YouTube, I wouldn't have wasted so much time videotaping videos off of MTV back in the day.
I didn't
Right.
on that. I've got a collection of VHS of videos I've taped too. So,
But what ended up happening was it was probably 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was sitting there. Now, get this. It's just one of those memories that just sticks out in my head very vividly. I was recording the Beastie Boys' Fight for Your Right to Party song.
Oh my
And,
God.
and then the very next song
And then
that
Stryper.
came on after that, it rolled into Calling on You by Stryper. And this was
Wow.
before they were on the Dial MTV, before they got big. This was when MTV was allowing them to be on MTV, was like in the middle of the night when people like me would be up watching MTV. And I recorded it, and I went back and I watched that probably for 30 minutes in a row, just watching the song over and over and over again, because Calling on You wasn't a hard song like More Than a Man and everything like that. So
Right.
at that point, it really, that the style of that song really hit my wheelhouse of what I was really into at that point. And then all of a sudden I was like, these guys are Christians. This is showing that you can be kind of cool and not always have to be in a 3-piece suit walking around. And it was that night that I guess you could say, because I was a young kid, I probably gave my life to God 15 times, as a young kid.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was that night that I would say that I fully dedicated my life to God, was through watching that video by Stryper. Now, I'm not saying that my path with my relationship with God has been an easy one, that I've been on fire for the past 40 years, walking with him. There's been a lot of valleys. There's been a lot, just like what David walks about, I'm walking through the valley now. You feel far away from me, God, what's going on? Or, things happen in life and I'm turning to other things and turning to God. So yes, but it was that night that I committed and was just like, so this band had a very important part in me accepting Christ in my life. And so immediately it was like, I love this band. And then and then from then on, it was just, I became a huge fan of theirs. And that's how I was introduced to them.
Wow. Good story, man. Not that I didn't know it already, but
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I'm sitting there going, yeah, fight for my right to party. And then all of a sudden, no, I'm going to call on God now, just that instant.
Well, I think a lot of us go that way. Listen to not just a lot of Stryper Christian metal, but all rock metal, anyways. Put it that way. So I mix it all in.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a heavy metal person. Like, but and I've told Tim this a million times. I can separate the lyrics from the music. I'm a drummer, and so one of actually the guy that married my wife and I, turned me on to Stryper's. Like, dude, you're gonna love this. And so it was Soldiers, and so I was like just like kind of feeling myself on the drums a little bit. I was kind of getting a little bit good, and I was listening to this, and it was just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? It didn't make sense to me at first. Just the lyrical content. Usually, I would just kind of push it aside and just give me the guitars and the drums and the bass and all that stuff. But this was also the first time that I'd heard those dual lead solos, especially in a song especially in a song like First Love. I was like, whoa, this is a different kind of vibe. And so and it wasn't like, Motley Crue and all the others, like, sex, drugs, rock and roll stuff. I felt the songwriting was like different. I mean, obviously it was different, but I feel like that has never gone away. It's like when Tim and I talk about this stuff all the time, there's like, oh yeah, Mike's writing a song. It's going to be great lyrically. So it's just, there's some ups and downs as far as musical content for Stryper for me. Not much, but yeah, I mean, when I was just learning my instrument, Robert Sweet is a huge influence in my drumming.
Right. Yeah. Like that whole band, I think, has got so much talent over the years. And you're right. Their lyrics have always been great. Maybe the ballads. I'm kind of with you there that I'm not much of a ballad guy, so it has to be a really good ballad for me to like it. Otherwise, it's more in the bottom of my list.
Yep.
With my story there, I got in Stryper late because they weren't getting airplay up here. Probably like you, I think you said I heard you say one time that they got no radio play, and they didn't end up here either. And I don't even know if I saw any of their videos on our video station. You had MTV. We had something called Much Music.
You had Much Music.
Yeah, our Canadian equivalent, and I don't even know if I've seen any of their videos on there. For me, it was just around 88, I think it was, about the time that In God We Trust came out, and I kept thinking, I should get into Christian rock. I didn't know if there was such a thing as that, but I heard about Stryper through the magazines, and the Hit Paraders and the other metal magazines would talk about Stryper and talk about the religious influence and lyrics. I'm like, oh, well, here's a band. I should check these guys out. So I bought In God We Trust, To Hell with the Devil, I think like the same time, same day or whatever, and threw them on. I'm going, yeah, this is pretty good. And from there, just became a fan. One more thing there, because my wife there keeps talking about the first time she heard Honestly. Actually, for the longest time after she heard Honestly, she didn't realize it was a Christian song. She just thought it was one of these nice ballads about a man and his wife or whatever, which was the beauty of it, because it could work either way.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I asked her, I says, well, if that was the first Stryper song you heard, where did you hear this? Because I never heard it until I bought To Hell with the Devil. And she said, actually, it ended up being on some compilation tape, some
oh wow
power ballad tape of hers, and she played that thing extensively.
They're funny.
That's a cool jumping off point there, because Tim and I have talked about this before. There's a bunch of songs from this band that are like, all right, are we talking about my wife, or are we talking about God? I mean, it's cool because you can there's a couple of them that are like, oh yes, these are love songs, but there's a few of them that you have to be like, you can take it how you want. I think is the message, but yeah, it's funky when you can kind of flip the script on a few of these songs and It's like, all right, what exactly are we talking about here?
Yeah. Wow. My story was been here in Canada. We got little mega or little invites to join companies that would send you tapes and CDs every month. So I got one, and the one was Stryper's "To Hell with the Devil." I was expecting this to be classic, quiet, whatever, right? Took it in my room, put it in my cassette player, played it. And I was gone. I kept rewinding and playing "To Hell with the Devil" and "Calling on You," and then, but that was it. I didn't know that there was any more until I was an adult. So I'm a late bloomer in Stryper.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, it's interesting. When I think he asked this every time now at a Stryper concert, Michael Sweet will say, who is seeing us for the first time? And it's amazing how almost half of the audience seems to be raising their hand that it's the first time that they've seen him. And then he'll say, then of course the other half have seen them before. But yeah, there's still a lot of people that are, when they go to the concert, it's the first time they're seeing them.
And it's so fun.
We haven't seen them before because they just don't make the way up here. I think I've got I think I bought off the Stryper website their "To Hell the Devil" tour shirt. It was one of these retro things, but it had the tour listings from '84 on the back, and I think there's one Canadian date in Toronto. And as far as I know, that's the only time they've come to Canada. And it's hard to bring bands up here now. This year, I noticed a lot of bands that don't normally come to our neck of the woods are coming here. So I'm hoping maybe the next tour, some promoter will bring Stryper up.
Yeah, maybe so, because I watched this live video that he put out on Facebook, and he said that they were going to be touring pretty extensively, probably, and I'm probably thinking towards the end of the year when their new album comes out. So
Right.
maybe we'll send up a prayer and say they'll get up there to Canada for you.
Yes.
Tell my wife they're on my bucket list. If they ever come here, doesn't matter how broke it makes us, we're going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I have to show up for the VIP and the meet and greets and all that. So
Yeah, I will tell you this: we went to the meet and greet on the No More Hell to Pay tour. No, not No More Hell to Pay. The Murder by Pride, and then
Yeah.
we did the meet and greet at the acoustic show. And I mean, they're pretty. I mean, he's pretty cool to. I mean, even if it's just for a moment, when he's signing something for you or talking to you, and all of them. I mean, they are really great people when you meet them in that meet and greet. So if you do get the opportunity to do that, I would highly recommend it.
Could
yeah,
come
I
to,
hope the opportunity comes around.
you can come to Atlanta if you want, but yeah, they are. I mean, they're all like super chill. We met them a couple times.
Yeah.
And they've always been like just super cool. Just not no rock star vibe. Just hey, we're doing our thing. And all right, quick story. We bought the meet and greet at the old Masquerade in Atlanta, and they played "Rock That Makes Me Roll" during
Oh,
sound
nice.
checks. So they hadn't changed their clothes or anything. They were still doing, and they just freaking crushed it. And then the song ends, and Mike goes, "Well, that sucked." And I was like, "What are you talking about?
What are you hearing?
I mean, your ears aren't hearing what I'm hearing because I thought that was freaking awesome." So yeah, I don't know. And Tim and I have talked about this multiple times. Mike is just a dang he's a perfectionist. So for him to say that, I guess didn't surprise me that much, but I was like, man, your ears are just different than mine, I guess.
Yeah, that's one thing. And we're talking, I think, before we hit recording, we may as well get into that now, that how he's one of the artists that his voice is still strong at, 40 years later. He's taking care of his voice.
Yeah.
And yes, he might not be able to hit quite the high notes he hit back when he was in his 20s. I don't think anybody could, 20, 30 years later. But, his voice still sounds great.
Well, I tell you, I mean, you talk about hitting the high notes. We've talked about this before. You listen to the Final Battle and the opening track, Transgressor, and he hits that note, and I think he holds it for 15 or 20 seconds, and I'm like, "My gosh,
I know.
you are this old," and not that, I don't wanna say he's old, like he can't do anything, but to be able to still do that almost 40 years later is just incredible. Because then you see some of these other people out on tour, and they just
Molly
need to
Crew.
go hang it up and pack it up
Half a
and go
note.
into
Yeah.
go into retirement and never perform again. He's just vocally anything that I feel that we've heard over the past few years that he puts out, it just sounds incredible, like it was 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, especially when the new stuff, there are notes in there that he just what? Like
Yeah.
he just and he could do it by just taking off. He
Yeah.
he gets that syllable and he's
Yeah,
gone.
it's on a dime. He can just freaking jump
Yeah, it's
three
incredible.
three ranges for no reason. I mean, for a reason, but
Yeah, just
yeah, he's a very underrated vocalist. I mean, I feel like the band in
hmm
general is underrated, but he especially as a vocalist is really underrated. But
So is he writing his own stuff or does he have a co-writer with him?
Most of the time, he writes the lyrics, he writes the music. I think there's been a couple of songs recently where Oz might have joined in on them, but for the
yeah,
majority of it, he is the songwriter for the band.
yeah, he's the principal songwriter for the band for sure. Oz, gosh, one of my what is it? I
He did the
think
way on The
that's
Hell with the
yes,
Devil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was
And
such a wow.
listen to you guys talking about what was it against the law and the fact that that was it Oz tried to write that no funky guy or
Not your huggy guy or something like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, according to Michael's book, Oz thought that that was going to be a catchphrase, and Michael was like, "Yeah, I just didn't see the vision behind it," or something like that.
I think I agree with Michael there, Matt. And actually, and I read the book honestly as well. There's some great stories in there. I love the
Yeah.
story where he kicked the guy's glass eyeball across.
Yes, that one is a great story. Like he's sitting there, it's a wad of gum, boom, and then it just goes out into the audience, and the guy's like, "That's my eye."
my eye. That's a
Because I
great
think
rock.
that was what was that? Was that down in Australia where that happened? I'm
Yes.
trying to remember.
Sure. And I think it was around the time of "In God We Trust" tour or something like that. Then
And then could you imagine you're expecting just to flick a piece of gum, and then you flick that hard marble thing, and then you got to pick back up and start playing the guitar again. I know he had to be in some pain probably for the rest of the night with that.
He
I could
kicked
see
his
I could just
something,
see his
so-
manager on like, oh no. Oh no.
Right?
but anyways, yeah, that was a great story. The other thing I want to get into is because we had covered this ourselves, and we brought, I think it was Lee Harvey, who was with the new guy from One Bad Pig, and has also done work with Heaven's Metal. So we thought we'd get someone else's perspective, and we covered Reborn and Reborn Again at the same time, kind of comparing the two records. So I figured, come more Stryper fans. So what were your thoughts on the differences between Reborn and Reborn Again?
Go ahead,
We
Tim.
can take it. Oh, go ahead, Daryl, and then I'll give mine.
Well, my only thing is, and the fortunate part of doing this pod is like I'm listening to it with kind of a different ear because I have listened to all these songs like 8,000 times. But it's forcing me to like, okay, where are the distinctions? Where are the production differences? And these two records, this was fun. I think for me, when I listened to the original, I mean, I love the album. It's probably my favorite. It's one of my favorites on the back half of the catalog. But I was looking at the Michael Sweet version. It felt to me like it was, and I don't know. I'm stealing this from somebody, and it might be you guys. It feels like a director's cut. Because I can feel the compression in the original, but once I listen to the other one, it feels more open. It feels more kind of alive. Um, it does give me, and I think I know you guys said this. It does give me a Van Halen in the studio kind of vibe.
Yeah.
See, that was, and I mean, like I say, I love the record. So, but I love the I'll say the director's cut. I like it more because it just sounds more open and alive as far as a production standpoint.
Yeah, for me, Reborn versus Reborn Again. First of all, Reborn, and Reborn was another album that they did that had a very major impact on my life at the time that it came out. And if you want to, and if you want to hear that, go listen to our podcast on To Hell with the Podcast, where we talked about Reborn, where we talked about the Reborn album. And I go a little bit into where I was during my life at that time, but it had a major impact. This was before social media. It came out in '05. I just happened to walk into the bookstore one day, and there it was. The band is back together, minus Tim Gaines, because Tracy Fiera was the bass player on that particular album. And so you had 3 of the 4 originals, and I loved it because at that time I was listening to it also from a sound of what music was kind of sounding like in 2005. So I wasn't going in necessarily expecting it to sound like 1986 or 1988 and to have the same vibe from then. I was just excited that they were back. Lyrically, it had a major impact in my life at that point in time. And then when I heard Reborn Again, though, Reborn Again seemed to add those Stryper elements that were missing in a sense from Reborn. Because if you listen to Reborn, there's no signature Michael Sweet scream. You know, there isn't on that particular album, but he does it on Reborn Again in a few spots. I felt the guitars were a little bit more chunkier. Maybe it was like he added some guitar solos in them. So I really like the Reborn original, and I really like the Reborn Again for what it brought, kind of a new element and a new sound to an album that I loved so much. But for me, when I listened to Reborn Again, there's just a lot of, and it was just impactful, a lot of knowing where I was in my life at that time when that album came out. And hey, my favorite band from the 80s just put another album out, and so I was just like, I loved it. I mean, I was just like loving it that they were back together. So,
Right. Yeah. My thoughts on that. When Reborn first came out, I actually didn't like it because it was so different than what they had done before. Now, lyrically, you're right. It was a great album lyrically. I think they've always had great lyrics. And
yeah,
this thing comes out, and I get in it, especially years later, realizing it was meant to be the Michael Sweet solo record.
right.
And the band just says, hey, we should record this. In my mind, it's always been, I think, at the bottom of the order for me, just because it's the least sounding Stryper sound record.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I liked
That's fair.
I liked Against the Law, at least musically anyways. There were a lot of things missing. That whole faith element was missing from the record. I understand where the band was. I think I just heard you guys talk about that on your podcast. I get it why it's Michael's least favorite. It's because of where he was in his life, where the band was in their life, and he doesn't want to, go back there. I get that. But there were some great songs on Against the Law. Michael comes out then, how many years later was Reborn Again, and I'm going, this is what the Stryper version should have sounded like,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's the Reborn Again is what is the Stryper sounding version, even though he put it out under his name only. I feel like that is the record that, it's the one that gives you the Stryper sound. And going to Against the Law real quick, since you brought that album up, I agree with you. Musically, out of the earlier albums, I remember back in the day, I would always say musically, that album was incredible. But lyrically, it wasn't as bold. I mean, you did have some faith-based relationship elements in there in some of the songs, but then there were other songs that were didn't have that in there. But I agree with you. I always loved that album musically and what it sounded like at the time. I always felt like In God We Trust was To Hell with the Devil 2.0. Because if you listen to those, this was my mind. When I listened to that album in sync, like for To Hell with the Devil, we had In God We Trust. Calling on You, Always There for You.
Yeah.
Free, and it was just like the same track, just different music, different lyrics, but it sounded the same. So I liked the album, but I was kind of disappointed a little bit when it came out because I was like, this sounds exactly like To Hell with the Devil. So then when they came out and did Against the Law musically, I was like, oh, this album really sounds good. But like you said, they were missing that faith-based element where they were being as bold as they were in their previous albums.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think Michael had even mentioned that in his book, that exactly what you said there. When they did In God We Trust, they really tried to and did copy To Hell with the Devil.
Mhm.
And it comes out as To Hell with the Devil Part 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would not want to hear To Hell with the Devil Part 3. So I actually liked Against the Law. Like I said, I came in with Stryper at In God We Trust. You know, it kind of went back a little bit, and then they come up with Against the Law, and I was all in. I'm like, this is great. Actually, and the one thing I wanted to mention about Daryl, since I just heard your podcast talking about this record, is I want to disagree. I think it was Daryl, or maybe it was both of you, did not like Rock the Hell Out of You, which was actually one of my favorite songs. So I'm going to disagree with you guys on that one. I mean, it's all a matter of opinion, and nobody's right or wrong, but
Yeah. Well,
We do this every week, and Tim and I always have a little bit of, button heads on what song goes where and what song we like more than the other. So it's all good.
you should see it if you're watching on YouTube versus watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify or Apple, when I sometimes list out a song and I'm putting it near the bottom, you should see Daryl's. It's exactly what he's doing right now. That's the reaction that I get from him, because for me, I've always been, when it comes to music, I do like, and it's funny because I've felt like on the back half of their era of this band, the back half with the newer albums, they're more heavy consistently throughout the album than they were back in the earlier days. And I like the back half, I love the back half and what they've done. But and I think it was I was listening to you, Aaron, and you were talking about sometimes you've got to be in the mood for a certain, like a ballad, or you have to be in the mood for something, like kick back or something like that. For me, I love just the rock, or if you want to call it pop rock, and I've always been a ballad guy. Give me a good ballad and I'm sitting there. But with their newer stuff, I've loved the heavier stuff, because one of my all-time favorite song, and I think you wanted to get there too, like let's talk about some of our favorites. My all-time favorite song from them comes off of the back half of their catalog, and to me it's one of the most epic songs that they've ever written.
all right. Yeah, well, why don't we get into that? Some of our favorite songs then.
Okay.
Yeah, dude.
So who wants to go
Who's
first?
going first?
Well, one of you guys, one of you go first.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I will
guys
say
are
this.
guests.
We're going to overlap, so go ahead.
So I will say this. I'll give you my top rock song, and I'll also give you my top ballad by them.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
okay.
My favorite song by them, like if I only had one Stryper song probably to listen to the rest of my life, and this was the only song that I could ever listen to again until I move on from this earth, it would be Yahweh off of Fallen. To me,
Wow.
Yahweh is just the music behind, and I'm not the music guy. I'll tell you this all day long. If you're listening to us, it's like, I'm not the music guy. I just know what I like and don't like. Daryl can pull things in and be like, did you hear that? No, didn't hear that at all. I have no clue what you're talking about. But just the way they do that song, and the way that song is composed, and with it just being about the crucifixion, and he gets to that part where it's the song and the slows down, and he goes, he was crucified, and I'm not going to try to sing it because I would butcher it. And he goes, he was and it just goes silent. He was crucified. And then it goes back into rocking again. just the whole composition, uh, composure of that song with it lyrically, it's just my favorite one. And I love it because it's become a staple for them to do at their concerts. So it's just one I just really, really dig.
Man, so
Yeah.
so yeah, for my template of Stryper songs, I love it when they do like biblical storytelling, and they also have double bass drums. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Yahweh is a freaking amazing song. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
For me, I was gonna say, actually, I know Michael has said that Yahweh was one of his all-time favorites that he loves to do from the Stryper catalog. Not one of my favorites, and I think it's just because of the content. The crucifixion story's been done. I know Bloodgood had covered it. I think probably a couple others had covered it. Musically, again, it's a great song, and it's not bad. The fact that Stryper decided, oh, why don't we do it as well? So I don't hate it. I think I like Fall and the song probably better or whatever. My favorite, I don't know if I could pick a single favorite. I would probably go with Divider off of Even the Devil Believes, or The Valley from Goddamn Evil. Those were great songs.
Yeah, both of
And
those
like
are great.
classics like To Hell with the Devil, yeah, Soldiers. Or
Yeah, Divider's one of my favorites too, and it's I've my wife and I, just to tell you this real quick, my wife and I have been married for 30 plus years, but we had a midlife gift, so we have a very young son. So when Divider came out, and that was on Even the Devil Believes, I think.
yeah,
And we would listen to that, and when it gets to that song, that part of the song where it's hey, hey, he's in the background pumping his fist like hey, hey, so we've always had some fun with that song, playing that one. So yeah, Divider is a great song.
Yeah, absolutely.
what
I
about you,
think-
Chris?
I like Goddamn Evil.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
one is a
really
good one.
that's what I go to if I want to hear Stryper. And a fun story for me, when I heard Calling on You, I heard it, and of course I liked it. But I went to a church with my dad once, and they were doing praise and worship, and they did their usual slow song. Then the guitarist he started the opening chords, They're Calling on You, and I looked at my dad, and I'm like, no, he's not going to. And these guys nailed it perfectly, like singing the song. I was like, so then I was sold with Stryper, right? So that's my other two songs I like a lot.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, the first band I was ever in, basically we did all like Stryper and Petra. So
Yeah, that's another good band we could spend hours
Dude,
talking about.
well,
But-
I mean, I listened to you guys' episode on Petra, and I was just like, all this nostalgia was just washing over me.
I didn't listen to your bonus. I need to go back and listen to your bonus episode on Petra, though.
It was, I mean,
I haven't
yeah.
listened to that one yet, but for them to put out, I will say this, talking about Petra real quick. I tell you what, John Schlitt, his vocals, in my opinion, on that new album, I can't believe he sounds the same as he did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. His vocals are still so strong.
That album is incredible. And I don't know if you heard like our best of Petra way back at I think it was our second episode. And if you heard that, or if anyone else is listening and goes back to that, I do apologize. We had very crappy audio at the time.
As we all do on episode 2.
Yeah.
We're
It
still
happens,
figuring
man.
technology out and all that kind of mess. And I feel like almost 30 episodes in, I'm still figuring it out. So
Yeah, no kidding.
I am too. I've got a couple of different systems that bounce back and forth. I'm like, I should try this system. Oh, that didn't come out very well. I'll go back to the tried and true system. And
Yeah, I'm about to buy a new microphone, and I'm not sure why, but I just want stuff to sound better. Not that
But
it
it's
I have
sounds
to
amazing.
remember to mute my audio when I leave, because we've had some interesting audio. That's all.
But it's amazing how the software can actually take something and make it sound so much better with the effects and everything that it does. So
Yeah,
gearing out on the technology.
that's the thing. Before we started out there, we weren't using this program, and I'm trying to figure things out with some really horrible program that didn't have anything with it at all.
Yeah, because we tried one once and it was like, we don't like that one. So we use the same one you do, Riverside, and it's phenomenal. I love it.
And yeah, I like it too.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, so all right, so can I pick a song?
Yeah, go ahead. Pick a song.
So it's not my favorite song, but it's like I say, it's got a lot of nostalgia attached to it. So Sing Along is one of my favorites, right? It's definitely up there just because of the harmonies and just I was in a band in high school and we actually had people that could sing. So Sing Along was always like one of my and it's fun to play on drums. So that one for me always has a little bit of swagger to it just because, high school stuff. But I mean, I have a few that are higher, but I really like that song.
Do you happen to know, Tim, what the story is behind "To Hell with the Devil"? Why he
I
wrote
don't
that
know.
song?
I've never heard a story
Okay.
on how that song came about.
There's probably something, the idea came in his head, why not, you say to hell with this, to hell with that. Why not to hell with the devil, make it truthful type of thing, So
Yeah,
same
maybe.
with, I think, same with goddamn Eve. I think the line probably came in his head and it's like, well, let's work this into a song or something
Yeah.
like that. And
Interesting. Yeah.
actually, it's funny you brought up Sing Along Song. Again, I'll listen to that episode you guys have done, and
You gotta like that song, Chris.
again, I'm in disagreement with you guys. It's my least favorite off that record. To me, it was just a song that did nothing for me. There was one, I think it was off. Was it? It's Up to You or something off the Hell of the Devil or whatever.
Yeah, It's Up to You is on In God We Trust.
And God we
Okay.
trust.
And there was, I got a little story about that. I remember I was in high school and I was in some club. I think some club all about world peace or something like this, and we had hosted a dance. We were trying to think of songs that we could tell the DJ to play that kind of went with the idea of peace, and I'm like, I gotta make a suggestion. I don't know. I can't think of this. And of course, they were bringing up the usual stuff like John Lennon's Imagine and stuff like this. And I'm like, hey, what about this song? It's Up to You by Stryper. It's all about, making the world a better place and stuff like this. And then they say, yeah, okay, great. And we'll put it on the playlist until DJ play it. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hear it because the night of the dance, I got sick and couldn't go.
Oh, no. Did they play it, though?
They said they played it, so I'm
Okay,
assuming
cool.
that they did. But
I don't know,
No,
man.
that's cool.
I sing backup and I play drums at my church and that kind of stuff. And it's just like that song has always had like the cool little mesh of like all the harmonies and cool drum parts. So that's why it holds a spot.
right, yeah, and like I said before, I think when it comes to Stryper, everybody's got their favorites. It's a personal preference, and I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer. Just people like what they like.
Well, the catalog's so huge.
And I think it's what makes it interesting when Daryl and I talk is that, yeah, there are sometimes we align on our favorite song off of an album, but there are times where, oh, I've got this one higher or you've got this one lower. And typically for me, I do love the ballads, but even on Even the Devil Believes, the This I Pray song, I love that ballad just because it's got that Southern rock type of vibe. I've always said if they took that song musically and rewound it and put it in 1990 or 91, that song would have been huge, in my opinion, just because of the way that it sounds. That's like my favorite ballad by them of all time. Even tops Honestly, which that's probably everybody's favorite ballad or most people's favorite ballad.
Exactly.
First Love.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against, honestly, but I think I'm with you on that point. I like This I Pray, probably one of the few ballads I like, and I'm like, listening to words going, this is a song I probably could have written. Maybe not as well as Michael had written it, but it's, the idea is behind it. I could have written this.
Yeah. Yeah, and just and that song came out too. I mean, that whole album, I mean, as you all know, that album came out when the whole world was shut down. So I listened to that one quite a bit when it came out. When I'd go on a walk, like, okay, I can go outside now. I'm going to go for a walk. Okay, let me put on Even the Devil Believes, and would listen to that one all the time. So, but
Right.
when you think about the albums, let me ask you this, Aaron and Chris. When you guys think about the albums, what have ended up being your favorite? Like, what is your favorite album all time?
My favorite actually is Even the Devil Believes. And I was thinking about this, even before I found out about you guys doing your podcast and kind of rating records, going, well, what's my favorite? And for a while, it was between Even the Devil Believes and Goddamn Evil. And then I'm started looking at them going, as I counted the songs, I'm going, there's more I would rank higher on Even the Devil Believes over Goddamn Evil. So I'm putting that as number one.
I like
Yeah, I would.
Goddamn Evil, To Hell with the Devil. That would probably be my favorite too. What about you, Daryl?
Wow. Man, I think my favorite's always going to be Soldiers, just because there's so much nostalgia attached to it, and it really did like shape my style as a drummer. And so there's just a lot of stuff there. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I love, but I think that was where my love for this band started, was on Soldier. So I'm going to stay there.
And Aaron, you and I agree. Even the Devil Believes is my all-time favorite by them.
Right, you might notice here I'm wearing, was it the Final Battle shirt? I actually got a shirt of Even the Devil Believes. That was actually by accident. It was kind of a funny story here, as they came out with the Final Battle. I'm like, oh, that's great, and they got some great designs. I gotta get a shirt, so I sent away, ordered a shirt. They sent me the design for Even the Devil Believes. I'm like, what? So I wrote them back saying, you sent me the wrong shirt. I wanted this design. So it says, keep what you got. We'll send you the right one. And they did. And I was going to wear Even the Devil Bleeds, but I'm like, the design isn't that exciting. It's just a cross and a little devil at the bottom there kneeling. It doesn't even say Stryper on the front of it. It's got Stryper on the side arm. It's kind of like the cover, but it doesn't have the big Stryper logo across the front. The other shirt I bought, and it was such a cool cover, was for No More Hell to Pay. Like when that came out,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that the cover, the picture they use. I got to get that shirt. And again, they didn't put Stryper across the front of their shirt. It was on the sidearm. But yeah, that was such a great cover. Probably one of my favorite covers of the band.
They do make some incredible album covers.
Yeah, they have. I mean,
Yeah, I don't have any shirts yet, but I'm sure I'll buy one eventually. So
yeah, they have a ton of great album art. I was looking through some stuff today, and I was like, dang, because even Reborn is. I mean, that cover is pretty sick.
That one wasn't bad. I found in the later years, I started getting, I don't know, too comic bookish, too cartoonish, and I'm like, it's okay. I like the music better than the cover.
Well, that's what we're listening to them for, is the music.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, it's good. But with the band themselves, if you could ask them one question, what would you want to know?
I don't know.
Aaron?
And that's hard because, they've talked about themselves. They've been in lots of interviews over the years.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of something that they haven't talked about yet, And I'd have to think about that. Yeah.
What would you ask Tim?
I would probably, if it was me, and if I was sitting with Michael Sweet, I would probably dive more into his side projects, asking him more about his side projects, because, like you said, Aaron, he is so open on social media, and sometimes he even says I'm probably too open to a fault and I say too much. What's going on with the band Stryper, but there are certain things that I would probably dive into more on his solo projects, and it's been a while since he's come out with his own solo album. I mean, I know he's got the Master Plan, which is out, but the thing with that album is not your typical Michael Sweet solo album. That's more inspirational. It's
Okay.
not even your normal Michael Sweet solo album. So it's just really, where does he draw a lot of his inspiration at the time that he's writing music as well? Because he did an album called Soul Driver, which was more of a, it wasn't, it was rock, but it was more adult oriented rock or AOR than it was what he did with Sweet and Lynch. So I'd probably dive more into with him about his solo and side projects.
Yeah, that might be a question to ask. I know we try to think of like a set question we asked every guest every time we had them on, and the one we were going with for a while was, who would you work with that you haven't? So maybe that'd be a question to ask him. Who have you not worked with that you would like to work with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing with that I was always and I never brought it up, but the fact that him and George Lynch are working together is kind of fascinating in general, based on their spiritual differences, and so which whatever, everybody's got their own flavor, but yeah, I would like to dig a little more into what it was like, writing, recording, and creating with a guy that's an atheist versus your beliefs. So, but I mean, I love all the Sweet Lynch records. I mean, I feel like they had a great separation of like, all right, Mike's gonna write this, and I'm gonna play this, and we'll just record it, and it'll be cool, and it was. But I just wonder if there's any like tense issues like with those
Right.
two, because Mike doesn't have a big ego, but I know George Lynch does. So I just would like to dig a little more into that. It's like, what was it like working with that dude?
Yeah, and I listen. Those are great records, and there's nothing wrong with writing great, you know, uh, faith value type songs without bringing faith explicitly into it. And I think that's what he had done with
No,
the Sweet
sure.
Lynch records.
Yeah, sure.
The good morals were there, and the inspiration was there. Like, he had that one song about rise up, from wherever crappy situation you're in, rise up, or lift yourself up. And I'm like, this is a great song for anybody to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the same way about the song Walk, walk with the I mean, run. Yeah. Walk with the wise, run with the fool, never rise. I mean, that's basically a verse out of Proverbs that should
Yep.
just be, that could just apply to anybody's daily life.
Yeah.
So he was still able to filter in some of his faith beliefs without it being explicit in a sense like he does with the Stryper music. So he's still able to hold true to his standards, being able to write with or collaborate with George Lynch.
Yeah, and maybe that is. I know anytime he comes out with comes out with a collaboration or somebody who is not explicitly a Christian, the naysayers come out. Oh, why are you working with this guy? There was a picture with him and King Diamond. They were talking. We're just two musicians talking back and forth. That's all. And who knows? It's a great opportunity to plant seeds. Now, what did he? Did he not? It doesn't really matter. If you're a Christian and act like a Christian and show people what Christians are like, I think that says a lot too. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd want to ask him about on his one of his solo projects. He did the song "Jesus," and that's a rockin' song. I lost
Oh yeah,
the cassette.
that are you talking about the one off of his first solo album? Now the album, I think he retitled it 1994.
Yeah.
I think that's the one
that
that
is
he's on the cover of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lost it. I'd love to find
Yeah,
that song again.
I've got that one actually, and I had mixed feelings about that one when it came out. There were some great rockers on there, maybe not the typical Stryper sound, but there were some great songs on there. And then that was a time when I was just still in high school, without a girlfriend, wasn't really thinking about relationships. So all the relationship songs, I'm like, I really could do without those ones.
Yeah. Yeah, because when that album came out, that was the year that I got married. So I was engaged when that album came out. So it hit me a little bit different than it did you, Aaron. So
You guys are awesome.
Well, we appreciate you letting us. Again, thanks for having us on. It's I know I've enjoyed the conversation today. I'm not trying to wrap it up. If you have more questions, I was just you know going with it. But we've enjoyed being here, enjoyed chatting with you, and we would. I'm sure Daryl feels the same way. We'd love to have you guys on one week on ours.
Yeah, totally.
Sounds fun. Yeah. Anytime I'm happy to come on. I know that much.
Yeah,
Might be
for
an
sure.
afternoon. Chris is not much of a morning person, so
No, but we're flexible. We can definitely do it in the afternoon for you, Chris. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you
We'll let
so
you sleep
much.
in a little bit.
yeah, we've done a couple interviews. We've had Dale Thompson of Bride on a couple times, and he likes doing his interviews in the morning, almost right after his breakfast. And I'm like, well, that's a little because he's down in the Eastern time zone as well. I'm like, that's a little early, so we scheduled it for his late morning, our early morning, and Chris was not a happy guy on those ones.
Takes me a while. I've been up since 8:30 in the morning here, so I'm a little tired, but I'm fine.
Yeah, I've been up since 4:30, so it's all good.
Actually, I'm going to bring one more point about what makes I think Stryper so good. Like over the years, some of the bands have kind of rested on the laurels. You brought up the fact that they've continued putting out. What I like is the fact that they're not on a Christian label and never had been, and they've got fans out there that aren't Christians. And I listen to other podcasts about music in general, in the the 80s hard rock, and lots of times Stryper comes up in their podcast. They're talking about the best of a year and how many year Stryper release was out. They talk about that one, or when Stryper does release a new one, they're like, yeah, that's on our top list of the year. And I'm like, all right, great.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting too. I've got a coworker of mine, and he lives in Canada. And when I was talking to him about the to hell with the podcast that we were doing, we started talking about Stryper, and he was one of the guys. He goes, "Yeah, I never got into him for the faith, but he goes, musically, I always thought that they were a great band, but I couldn't agree with you more because you look at some of the bands that are still touring, that are still doing things. It may have been 10 years ago that they put out a new album, or it could have been so long ago, and they're still touring on what was popular back in the 80s. And that's the thing that I did love about this most recent tour that they did a couple of years ago when they released When We Were Kings, because the front half of the set was all their old stuff, but then they at least did one song from every album, starting with Reborn all the way to When We Were Kings, and they did them in the order that the albums came out. So you got to hear a lot of the newer stuff as well on their 40th anniversary tour that that they normally don't play because people want to hear the stuff. Most of the time they want to hear the stuff from the 80s, but I was digging it because I was like, yeah, this is the stuff I've been wanting to hear.
Right.
I've heard Calling on You live several times now. I don't need to hear that song again live. I want to hear I want to hear some of the newer things. So that tour was great. But yeah, I totally agree with you on that. They haven't rested on the laurels, and they just creatively, and Michael is just always saying, when you read on social media, this is our best album. And he's just always looking to better than, I want to do better than my last album. And I think it's why creatively, and this is just me talking, creatively, when they do things and they put things out, it is so good because they're not, like you said, they're not resting on what they've done in the past. They want to continue to get the message out and they're not doing it cheaply, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
Yeah. One of the things that Tim and I agree on is like the bar is always high. It's like whether and we've seen posts. It's like if I can't do this anymore, then I'm just gonna, I'll hire another vocalist or we'll just go away. I mean, I appreciate the fact that they always have a certain bar where it's like the quality's got to be there or it's not getting put out. So, I mean, like I say, that's one of the reasons that we love this band so much. It's just they're never going to give you like garbage like certain other folks might.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you said that. I know I saw that post. He says, it might come a time where Michael have to step down from vocals and just play guitar with the band and find a new I couldn't imagine another vocalist on that band. And I know they've tried when Michael first walked away from the band. They
Jeff
tried. They brought Dale in Thompson in for a show or two, and that wasn't. Well, he actually said that was when Stryper was on the way down in popularity, and Bride was starting to take off in popularities. So he kind of weighed his options and says, "Well, Bride's where I should be." And I know I stepped it up to the vocals a couple times when Michael couldn't, but I just couldn't imagine anyone else doing vocals for Stryper.
I was talking about this with my wife the other night because this came up because the post got up on social media. I was like, what about Jeff Tate? I don't know. We were just throwing.
There's a thought.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation one time when the post came up because we saw it. Because typically, I'll look through the posts that he puts out either personally or on Stryper, and then we'll talk about those for a little bit before we get into what we have on tap to talk that day. And it was about the question was who would replace me, and my thought was, because with the lyrics being spiritual and faith-based and about God and about Jesus, is that, to me, I feel like you would have to find someone who has that same conviction to be able to perform it at that level. And one person that, and I don't know if you ever saw this one, there's two people that I have from the Christian rock world that I could see potentially doing it. One I hadn't thought of until right now is that Ken Tamplin one time did one of his videos, and he did Soldiers Under Command. And so I was like,
thinking about Ken.
And I was like, and just his voice and the range that he has, I feel could go well with the band Stryper for the most part. But somebody else that just popped in my head, and I don't know if you were aware of this, but one time Guardian did a full cover of the Yellow and Black Attack from front to back. Jamie Rowe, with his voice, I could see singing some of these songs as well.
It's funny you bring up, as you were talking, and I was trying to think who else could do this, and Jamie Rowe came to my mind. Without me even thinking about this question ahead of time, I'm like, who else would have the ability to do these songs? And you're right, probably Jamie Rowe.
And I think too, like, from the Christian community, because the Christian community, and I'm going to say this very gently as I say it, I think could be very favorable or unfavorable of whoever they brought in. So I think with where they know where Ken Tamplin being with Shout and with Jamie Rowe being with Guardian, and with some of the things that he's shared over the years, I think that the Christian-based community could say, yeah, I can get on board with those two.
Right. Yeah.
They're familiar with them. They know what's going on. But I just think anybody who stands in, they're just going to have to be able to sing, because I could not imagine somebody who doesn't have any type of faith-based belief stepping in for Stryper and singing more than a man.
Yeah, you're right there, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I was looking at it pretty much from a technical perspective. I mean, I know Jeff Tate could sing those songs. I don't know jack about his spiritual, political, anything. So I know he could probably sing those songs, but I don't know if he could sing that, like you said, with the same conviction. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, like Ken Tamplin, he's one of the best guitar players on the planet. I mean, and vocalists as well. That would be a big step. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'd be good.
Well, you make a good point because he is a really good guitar player. So in effect, you would have now 3 guitar players in Stryper if you wanted to use those tools, but you also have Ken's voice. so I don't know. you could add like a totally extra layer to the band.
Well, we just pray that Michael would recover and be well, and he'd be able to continue for many, many years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, he's already
absolutely.
kicked the thyroid cancer, or he already had a bout with cancer, and he's kicked that. So great. Yeah, said hopefully he can keep continuing for many years. I know he said he plans on doing like 20 solo records, 20 Stryper records. I'm going, wow, that's an awful lot of material.
I
Oh,
mean,
good lord, dude! It's been crazy trying to cover all the material that we've got access to. So,
Yeah, I think
but
he's one of those people, if I recall correctly, he may have written about this and honestly, but he's one of those people that always walks around and he always just is being downloaded with a song in his head, and it's always there.
well, yeah, you can tell.
wow.
All right. Did you have any more thoughts on this, Chris?
I think our guests have said it awesomely. Think they're
All
good.
right. Yeah, I think this has been a great conversation. It's been great talking to you guys. I'm not sure how I discovered your podcast, but it's been great. I've been listening to your podcast. That this is to hell with the podcast. I think it came across one of my Facebook feeds or whatever, but I'm like, definitely worth checking these guys out, and definitely love the material you guys cover. So
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Aaron and Chris. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having us
man.
on today. It was an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you, guys.
yeah, you're welcome. And like we say all the time, Chris says, let your cat, your dog, your grandmother listen to the show. So yeah, share this out. Let everybody know you're listening. We do not want to be the best kept secret, and share it out, subscribe, listen, and all that.
Like and subscribe.